Ambassador Kethvar's mandibles clicked in amusement as he reviewed the files on his holographic display. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with similar sounds of derision from the assembled representatives, clicking, chittering, and harmonic. Vibrations that served as laughter among the various species. Humans, Kethvar announced to the assembly, his forearms gesturing dramatically, claim to be ready for Class 7 membership in our council. A wave of incredulous sounds rippled through the chamber. Their military assessment shows they possess no energy shields, no plasma weaponry, and their fastest vessels barely achieve 0.3 light speed. The crystalline entity representing the Zephyrian collective resonated with obvious mirth. Their submission indicates they use kinetic projectiles and combustible propellants. The translation matrix struggled to convey the Zephyrians' disbelief. High Counselor Vrax, a towering reptilian whose species had dominated 3 sectors for millennia, slammed his ceremonial staff against the floor. The assessment is clear. Humans are a primitive species unsuitable for anything beyond Class 2 associate status. They lack the basic technological foundations of civilized warfare. What none of them knew was that Captain Sarah Martinez of the UES Perseverance was listening to every word through a quantum entanglement communicator hidden in the chamber's bioluminescent decorations. The device, no larger than a grain of rice, had been placed there by what the Council's security had dismissed as a maintenance worker, actually Lieutenant Colonel James Chen, whose day job was indeed maintenance, though of a different sort. Sarah smiled grimly as she relayed the conversation to Admiral Rebecca Foster aboard the UES New Horizon, humanity's flagship that hung silent in the asteroid belt of the Proxima system, well beyond the Council's sensor range. They think we're primitives, Sarah reported. Vrax just classified us as barely worthy of associate status. Admiral Foster's weathered face hardened. At 65, she had commanded everything from atmospheric fighters to generation ships. But today would be different. Today she would command something that would redefine galactic politics. Are our farmers in position? Foster asked her tactical officer. Yes, ma'am. All 12 agricultural vessels are maintaining standard approach vectors. The Council fleet is treating them as scheduled grain deliveries to the station. Foster nodded. The Zephyrians, for all their technological superiority, still required organic compounds that could only be efficiently produced on garden worlds. Earth's agricultural ships had been making routine deliveries to Council Station Omega-7 for 6 months, each one carefully inspected and cleared by security. Each one crewed by simple farmers and agricultural technicians. What the Council hadn't realized was that every farmer aboard those ships was a reservist. Every agricultural technician was a veteran. And every grain silo had been designed with a secondary purpose that the aliens' energy-based sensors couldn't detect. The Council. Session continued with various species mocking humanity's quaint reliance on chemical propulsion and solid projectiles. Kethvar was in the middle of explaining how human bullets were laughably ineffective against modern energy shielding when the first agricultural ship, the UES Wheatfield, transmitted its activation code. Captain Pete Kowalski, who had spent 20 years growing soybeans in Iowa before the draft, allowed himself a small smile as he spoke into his communicator. Control. This is Wheatfield. The harvest is ready. In the depths of his ship, what the Council's inspectors had identified as a grain processing facility began its transformation. Massive internal bulkheads retracted, revealing not wheat storage, but the largest railgun ever constructed by human hands. The agricultural technicians moved with military precision, their practiced hands activating systems that the Council's energy-focused technology couldn't even recognize as weapons. 11 more ships underwent the same transformation. The farming vessels that had seemed so harmless revealed their true nature as humanity's most devastating mobile weapon platforms. On Council Station Omega-7, Vrax was proclaiming humanity unfit for even basic military cooperation when every alarm in the facility began screaming. The station's AI, a collective intelligence that had processed threats for 3,000 years, spoke with something approaching panic. Unknown weapon signatures detected, configuration not matching any known technology in the galactic database. Threat assessment, error, threat assessment, error. Through the massive viewports of the council chamber, the assembled representatives could see the human agricultural ships. What had been peaceful, curved hulls designed for atmospheric flight were now angular weapons platforms bristling with equipment that made no sense to their energy weapon-oriented thinking. Admiral Foster's voice came through every communication channel simultaneously, transmitted by quantum entanglement nodes that had been hidden in every delivered grain shipment for months. "Honored counselors," she said with perfect diplomatic courtesy, "you seem to have made an error in your assessment. You assumed that because we use kinetic weapons we must be primitive. You failed to consider that we might use kinetic weapons because we've perfected them beyond your comprehension." The first shot came from the UES cornfield. What the Zephyrians had dismissed as a primitive projectile weapon accelerated a tungsten rod to 0.95 light speed using magnetic fields more sophisticated than anything in the galactic database. The projectile struck the unmanned target drone that the Council used for weapons demonstrations. The drone, protected by shields that could deflect plasma beams capable of cracking planets, simply ceased to exist. The tungsten rod passed through its energy barriers as if they weren't there, the kinetic impact converting both projectile and target into a brief, brilliant star. High Counselor Vrax's reptilian features had gone pale. Impossible. Energy. Shields are impermeable to solid matter at high velocity. The physics work fine, Admiral Foster interrupted gently. When you understand that kinetic energy at near light speed doesn't care about your energy barriers. You've been fighting with energy for so long, you forgot that mass and velocity are energy too. The demonstration continued. 12 farming ships revealed weapons that operated on principles the Council had abandoned as primitive millennia ago, refined to levels of sophistication that made their energy weapons seem quaint. Railguns that could accelerate projectiles to significant fractions of light speed. Missile systems that used not energy warheads but simple kinetic impactors that hit with the force of nuclear weapons. Point defense systems that fired streams of microscopic particles at relativistic speeds, creating barrier fields that could stop any known projectile or energy beam. As the demonstration concluded, Ambassador Kethvar found his voice. Who are these farmers? Admiral Foster's smile was visible on every screen in the chamber. Captain Kowalski there grew soybeans for 40 years, but he also served as an artillery officer in our planetary defense forces. Dr. Sarah Chen manages our largest wheat collectives, but she also designed the magnetic acceleration systems you just witnessed. Every human you've dismissed as a simple farmer has another skill set. We've learned that a species survives not by specializing, but by ensuring every individual can contribute to both creation and protection. The council chamber fell silent, except for the soft humming of life support systems. Now then, Admiral Foster continued, shall we discuss that Class 7 membership? Or would you prefer another demonstration of how primitive human agriculture can be? High Counselor Vrax slowly lowered his ceremonial staff. For the first time in 3 millennia, the Galactic Council had encountered a species that had taken their abandoned technologies and perfected them beyond recognition. The vote for humanity's Class 7 membership was unanimous. Later, as the agricultural ships returned to their normal configurations and prepared for their regularly scheduled grain deliveries, Captain Kowalski couldn't help but chuckle as he supervised the restocking of actual wheat in his holds. "Control," he radioed. "This is wheat field. Harvest complete. Returning to normal farming operations." The galaxy would never look at farmers the same way again.